Hello, welcome. We have another episode of Talking Taylor. My name is Lee Duvenek. This is an Instagram series where we get to chat and meet Taylor dancers, hear their stories, hear about their experience at the company. Today we have the so amazing Christina Lynch Markahm joining us. Can't wait for you to hear her story, and hear all of her good stories. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Let's get her on.
Hello.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. Does this look familiar?
What do you mean, Christina? Your house is
Thank you
so
so much,
cute.
Lee and Bridget, for allowing me to stay at your apartment and do this interview. So it's great.
For anybody that doesn't know, we try to do this where people can get home at the end of our rehearsal day at 5, but Christina lives a little bit further
I'm
up than most
Staten
people.
Island. It takes a little bit longer for me than normal to get home. So usually when there's these events, I use, this is also like studio 4 or 5 or 7, right? I've
Yeah.
taught here. I And then I'm also now doing this Instagram Live. I'm very excited. So thank you for having
Well, thanks for being here and also, making my poster look cute. It's adorable. Well, hello. How are you doing? How was your day?
My day was great. We had a really wonderful day of rehearsing. I took Zoom class with Lisa in the morning, and then I taught a tier 3 class. Jake Vincent from the company and I taught 3 high schools and middle schools, and they're going to be watching Gossamer Gallant. So we did a 45-minute intro, talked about the dance, gave them a very quick warm-up, and then started teaching choreography to them. And they were so sweet and wonderful. So, and then rehearsal till
Yeah.
5. So, and then
And pretty much you've highlighted all of the projects that we're working on currently, right? Because we have the live Zoom classes. We also have the wonderful tier 3 outreach that we're doing right now. We filmed Gossamer and Cloven to be shown at public schools. And then maybe you can talk about a little bit of what we've been working on in rehearsal too.
Oh yeah, so we've done Paul's pieces together, but also we have Lauren Lovett coming in to rehearse with us. So getting some outside choreography, working with us, and it's been exciting because we worked with her before, but we haven't seen her in a while, and she comes in and she's like, zoom, 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 and I love that kind of way of choreographing because she just throws a whole bunch of stuff at us, and then she wants to just us get the feel, and then we have tons of time to clean it up later on, and I really like that fast pace, and I'm very excited that she's so excited that she's almost done. It's like a 20-minute ballet and we're almost halfway done. So it's exciting. I think a lot of the dancers are like, whoa, what's going on? But we gotta go with the flow, and luckily we record everything. So nothing's missed.
Yes.
And then of course we're also working, oh, sorry, I'm interrupting.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Christina. Don't let me interrupt.
No, I was going to say that we also I have the pleasure of working on a piece called Field of Grass, which a few months ago we performed at Philly, which was live stream, and just so exciting to continue diving into the character and also just talking to past company members that originated roles. So I'm just really happy to be dancing all day, and how lucky are we that at the tail end of this pandemic that we are really jumping very forward to keeping arts alive and hopefully getting to a theater near some of you that are watching as soon as possible that it's healthy enough for it.
Yeah, totally. I love that, Christina. But I think we need to go back. I think we need to tell the people where you're from, where you grew up. You're one of our locals, as it were.
Yeah, I grew up in Westbury, Long Island, and I went to a small dance studio that was mostly competition, and I really enjoyed dancing. And it wasn't until I and I also went to Catholic school for most of my education. So I went to St. Bridget's, Our Lady of Hope Regional School, and they had a great musical theater program, and I used to sing at church. And that was where I got my performance bug. So I was in the choir, and then I was in the rock band, and I was and then I started telling everybody there that I also danced. So then I started dancing at church. And it wasn't I know liturgical dancing, there's actual steps and stuff. No, I just got to choreograph and me and 3 of my friends growing up, we like did a whole creation of the world where the pastor would read and we would dance and do a whole modern thing. So then I went to a performing arts high school, Holy Trinity, out in Hicksville, and Kathy Murphy was my teacher, and she was the one that taught me modern more than just, you know, what we were coming up with for church sessions all the time. And we learned a lot of Graham because she was certified there. And then that's when I decided to take a Graham intensive and had a great time there. But it wasn't until I went to Hofstra where Carla Wolfangle and Kathy McCann were my teachers. Also Amy Marshall. There's also
Oh my gosh.
and they told me about Paul Taylor, and then I signed up for the winter intensive. I think my sophomore year or freshman, something like that. And boy, did I get that bug, and I still have it.
I think we uncover like videos of you, or at least photos of you doing like Piazzolla at one of those intensives?
Oh, that was the summer intensive, yes, with Nick Sonoa, who I ended up dancing with in Taylor too. So yes, I mean, there was a whole bunch of students, you know, that I took classes with, and I taught you at the intensive.
I know, you did.
So it's just so exciting that it's a small world that keeps growing, and I'm thrilled. And all through education, all through the intensives. That's how I kept on my training, because if you talk to Andy or Susan McGuire and Patrick Corbin, who were my first teachers, they would say I've come a long way. I still have a lot to do. Still have a lot of work, but long way.
Oh my gosh. So what year did you end up, so you left Hofstra, and then you danced for Amy Marshall for a while, right?
I graduated in 2004, and I was very, very lucky to be asked by Amy Marshall to dance for her company. And Amy and Chad, they were both members of Taylor too, so they ran their company very similar to how the company is run. You know, we rehearsed 5 hours, and then we put together dances. She choreographs on us, and we do show very much like Taylor too. We go on shows, and I was also with Laura at the time, you know, so there's Laura Halzak. She was also with me in the company, and then later on John Irick from Taylor too, so a whole bunch of other people, Eileen. So we just family, you know. And it's because of Amy and Chad and their hard work ethic, and they put that on me, that I was able to sort of stay afloat on my first few years in the second company. And in 2008, I got accepted into the second company. I think I annoyed Paul by going to every single audition and taking class in the front with my bob and my bright red everything.
I remember, because the first intensive that you had gotten the job was my first intensive ever at Taylor.
Oh my!
And you came in, and I remember you and Madeline, because you guys got in together, and you guys were working on Esplanade, because it's always the first thing you learn in Taylor too. And like your raspberries from the baseball slides I was just kind of like, these people are so intense.
It was just, I know it's too much information, but it was just like this oozing. People know me that I just go crazy and do things 1,000%, and I should just be doing 0. It's probably my new motto for 2021. Tom Patrick was coaching Madeline and I on Esplanade slides, and I just kept on doing them over and over. And I did it too much that it was just this open wound for most of the summer, and I had to wear like plastic. There was nothing. The gauze would the gauze would heal into it. So, but now I can do it properly without injuring myself. So.
For anybody that doesn't know, I send you to the movie A League of Their Own, where that one woman does literally a baseball slide in a skirt. Yeah, that's what it looked like when they lift it up, and it's just like a goiter that size. Like, it was so intense, and I was just like, I was strangely like, that's disgusting, but also this is amazing, and I want that kind of passion.
I do have to say that once you learn how to do it correctly and safely, it's not very painful anymore. Just for people that are now afraid of doing baseball slides. I teach them in my class all the time.
Well, what was it, Esplanade, that like Clary and our costume person always has to like change out your tights because like they just get ripped from the dance? or was that
Oh,
something else?
it's a G, because there's also some sliding
It
there too. But another thing of, I don't know, I just like to slide. And it's the same, I think it's the same sign that's always reminding me of my beginnings.
But yeah, the raspberry is definitely, you know, that's the badge of honor.
Yes.
So talk to me more about your Taylor 2 experience, because I think we have that together. I was so lucky that I got to be there. Your last year of Taylor 2 was my first year of Taylor 2. So like I had, for anybody that hasn't know, I came in as a small little wee babe, and then Christina was like the older sister mom who was just like, let me show you the ropes, kid, which has always been you to me.
I had so much fun in Taylor 2 because it was just the 8 of us, 6 dancers, and then production and rehearsal director, and we just rode in 2 minivans, and then we just drove all around, and we performed anywhere. I think the most humbling performances that we did were at hospitals, dancing in the hallways, just with a boombox, you know, modifying for patients that couldn't get out of bed. And I think that's great because that's a mission of the second company, of just like going out there. And I always call spreading the dance of Paul instead of the word of Paul and that religious aspect of it, you know, and also teaching, which I love. I always loved as a kid. And now through the pandemic, I've been teaching a lot, and I just really enjoy, because I always have been very grateful that all of my teachers that I had at Taylor and even in school were nothing but supportive. Like, yeah, I may not have been like so great technically. I always had this spirit, and they never crushed it. So I was just happy. And I always go back to Hofstra and I go, thank you. It's because of your positivity that I didn't graduate and just go like, I hate dance, because that's the problem. And that's, it shouldn't be like that. I think schools should be preparing you. I mean, yes, you should be prepared for the real world, but I got told no a lot. Like, even Paul told me no like 6 or 7 times. So, I mean, yes, you need to know that it's a little bit negative, but you should be on graduation day ready to go, and then face the, you know, the hard truth a little bit as you get older and get a tougher. So, yeah. And that's why I'm a positive teacher, because of my experiences.
Totally. And you bring that into the studio every day. You emulate that ability to be like, I'm here. I can throw anything you got at me, and I'm gonna handle it, and I'm just gonna do a smile and make it work.
Make it work.
I wanted to ask, you had 3 different directors over your time in Taylor 2, who were all very different in their like rehearsing style, you know, as each of the Taylor dancers are. I just wondered, like, what did you learn from each of them? You know, Tom, Andy, and Ruthie.
I'm so lucky, and also there was Patrick Corbin in between there for like a brief
just
moment.
Like a hot second.
Yeah, but I had Patrick as an educator for a long time before, so I feel like he's always been coaching me along the way. But Tom Patrick was my first director, and I had so much fun with him because I was so, when you're young, you don't even know what you should be doing, or I learned all my choreography, and I remember he gave me a note, and I think he talked about it when we had a reunion recently, and I was like, I really think I want to try it this way. You know, I just was like, and then he goes, what? And then I showed it to him, and he was like, all right. You know, so I always had a relationship with him that I loved his imagery. The second section of cows in Esplanade, just of like the longing, and he always had a nice connection with his mother, and I always would think about that too, just like, you know, you're a cow and you're cowering back and crawling to your mom. So like these things I still think about all the time. And then of course he's been telling me to calm down since the beginning of time. Like, if you're gonna do it like that, where else are you gonna go? So I remember at that summer intensive, I did that first baseball slide in the last section, and I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I don't think I can finish it. Best. And luckily it was rehearsal. I like blew all my stand that first thing that Ruthie does. And then of course Andy LeBeau was my second director, and he taught me structure and counts, and I love that because I don't know, everyone knows I'm not a really good counter. I listen to the music, I try, you know, but I like the passion and like all that of that, but there also needs to be, you have to be in the right place at the right time, and you have to have the right counts so that you can teach it properly. And also Andy pushed me a lot because I got cast in a lot of technical things, and I was like, I don't do that. I flex my feet and, you know, bend my knees and throw myself around the floor. Don't make me do that solo in airs. And it was a big step for me, because I can actually do pretty things. And that's something that Andy helped me find. And then, of course, and he had the confidence in me, along with Paul, that I can be pretty and also contorted and grotesque and, you know, animalistic at the same time. And then Ruthie, my spirit animal, goddess, lover, mother, I love her so much. You know, you joined when I met her, and she just, so with all these different rehearsal directors, they really helped me find who I am, and I'm still figuring myself out, because now I have Betty. She's another wonderful person that has helped me and also been so supportive from the very, very get-go. And she also, thank you, Betty, has also allowed me to explore characters and, you know, sometimes tone it back. I'll practice toning it down. 2021 will be the year. I'll show up to work with Benadryl. That'll help.
I wanted to ask about those roles, now that you bring it up, is, of course, you got into the company with Paul, which was amazing, and I'm so happy that you got to work with him. I was noticing in your like little profile picture on Instagram, it's that photo of Paul touching you.
It was a very nerve-wracking experience to work with him when he's choreographing. He always was he really loved improv. And, you know, I would be, and then he would let us improv around, and then he would always yell, stop. And every time he yelled stop, I always found myself front and center. And he would always go, oh, not you again. And then I started going in the back to improv. Like, this is like in the very beginnings of him trying to get to know me. I mean, with doing his choreography and his steps and his dances, yes, but like coming up with him. And I just love to, I gave him a little too many ideas. And then he had to put me in my place, and it's like, girl, I'll tell you what to do. And I'm like, okay. But I was like, but maybe I'll do this. You know how I am. So everyone knows. I mean, people now, they'll know. And the best part is, I think I totally won him over is because I can whistle. that was a moment in my career in the main company. I squeezed 2 solos out of that dance. Sorry, solos.
Amazing. So, but the roles that you took on from the rep are some of the most iconic roles out there. And you had brought up Betty coaching you, and I know that you got to experience being Big Bertha, a part that I will probably never do. And I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about what that experience is like of going into that dance and like being on stage as the automaton, if you will. Talk to us about that.
It was a thrill for me. I really enjoyed being that character, and I enjoyed being that character as I didn't see myself as evil. I saw myself as showing the audience how evil this family is. You know, that's how I wrapped my mind around it. But being coached by Betty is amazing. We watched the video, and she taught me the counts, and the counts are quite confusing. And I tried to do it I tried to do it as best as I could to make her proud, and also to add a little bit of myself into it. And I just enjoyed how stiff, and I'm a nervous blinker. I probably blinked 1,000,000 times now, and my contacts were drying up. So I would have to rehearse it without my contacts so that I can keep them open and be as maniacal as one would be as that character. And she was wonderful in coaching me and taking the time and telling me the roles and the story, and then getting the counts and getting the structure and the movement, and then letting me sort of get wider and develop and grow into it. And I was lucky because it was earlier on in the main company, and I didn't have much to focus. I had a lot of choreography, but I could really focus on that dance. And Betty was kind enough to give me her blue eyeshadow. So I wore her blue eyeshadow for, yes, for, because it's, yeah. And I still have it. It's in my locker for whenever, if it ever comes back.
Oh, amazing. You don the red boots, the platforms again?
Yeah, the boots, yeah, those are newer boots, yeah, that I got. But the blue eyeshadow is hers.
What are some of your other like roles that you've enjoyed taking on? Like you've done
Um,
so many.
Second section of Esplanade, another dance that I was coached with by Betty, and I'm very happy that I'm going to be revisiting that role again as the lone woman in pants, and
Hmm.
I think I'm finally getting it after after all these years. I think I might be onto something on this
I mean,
character.
it's like that part is a masterclass in gesture, you know, like if anybody like, which I mean, is Paul's amazingness to the art form of modern dance, but just, you know, being in that part, you're so central to it, and that is your section. So, and you're so like, I have been so lucky because I've gotten to do the man's part and like stare into your eyes in that, you know, strange place that we all go to.
I danced with you in the second company and you were the
I was in the Carolyn falling.
Carolyn role,
Yeah.
so I've performed it with many dancers, and it's really a very touching and very important section of the dance, and it just makes me think about the cows at the end when everyone's just crawling to this figure that's just cried, and it's just how comforting it is, and then all of a sudden everyone goes into running around in a circle. So there's like a brief moment and the yearning of not being able to touch another person. And you're not really supposed to be looking at your fellow dancers, which is so odd because in Paul's choreography, a lot of it is like real intense gaze, and that's what the audience really reads. But here you remove the eye contact and the touching, and it's just such a stark and devastating section, I think.
Devastating is completely right. And the shift that needs to happen in that blackout, you know, like you were talking about looking in each other's faces, you know, when for instance in like tracks when you're in the first section and then you go into that blackout, it's like you completely go to a different world almost. You know, when you're standing there in the dark and the lights slowly fade up, the beautiful Jennifer Tipton warmth that hits you, and then I'm like looking in your eyes, but you're not there. It's haunting. It makes me cry every time. What were other? I was thinking, Changes was such a fun and fabulous role for you. I think that one, if I had to think of like a Christina role that I was like, this is the closest to like Christina as a person. I think it was that kind of like an earth goddess, power woman with a solo called California Earthquake. You know.
Yeah, it was so funny because Anne Maria, she taught the whole. This was back in when we were on Broadway between Prince and Spring, and she was just teaching one day, and I think it was like Corinna and Christy and I think it was just like 3 or 4 women, and she's like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to teach you the whole solo, and I think I was a student at the time. No, I don't, or maybe I was just in the company. I don't know. I forgot it. I don't know when Changes was choreographed, but Lee, you should know this. Was I company that I don't know, but she taught the whole solo in class, and I was like, that's rocking. And I remember watching her kill it every night on stage, and I mean, like, it's so funny. We're doing Field of Grass, another piece about women's strength and fighting against whatever's holding you down, and then calling Sandy, who originated the role that I'm doing now, and then just saying like, okay, you always want to know like who originated the roles, and you're going to be throwing yourself on the ground, and you know that you're going to have to leave it all on the dance floor, which is my favorite. So Anne Maria came and coached me on it, and I just had a blast with her coaching me, and then getting to perform it so many times, and yeah, it was just a blast for that. And then with Sandy, because of the pandemic, she wasn't able to come into the studio, but we sent her a video and we talked on the phone. And then she gave me all these things, and she told me what was happening in the rehearsal and certain things that she wanted to work on as that character as well. And so she was able to pass that along. So hopefully she can come into the studio at one point and be there physically to work on it with me. So really, I just love to be able to just the freedom of throwing yourself all around on the ground and also making some shapes, which I do. There's some jumps there. And then just having the character and just being lost in the character. I mean, it's roles created by strong women like that. You can't halfway question who you are. You got to know who you are once that curtain goes up, and you just have to do it. And that's the only way. That's the only way to really do any of Paul's dances, you know.
Yeah.
And then after, like, oh my gosh, what happened? Did that dude do that? All right, okay. You know? And then all the insecurities of life come in after the curtain closes. But in that moment, there should be nothing. But this is who I am. This is what I've been working so hard on.
That's beautiful. I want to talk a little bit about your teaching, because I feel like if there's anything that's shown up in this conversation, it's how much that you are there for like you're accessing the lineage to you, and then you are so generous with passing that knowledge on to others, the new people in the company and also for class. So talk to us a little bit about that.
I love to teach, and then now I used to, when I taught in the morning, I would do everything from like a repertory, you know, and that whole day would be, and then now I've just started to study just the movement quality of Paul, and then sort of, not that I'm choreographing, I don't want that, but like coming up with different movements from different dances and putting it together, sort of similar to like an etude.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, I reached out to so many students. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just baking bread all day, which we'll talk about later. company carb supplier. So I'm like, I need something. So I just reached out to people and I said, just Instagram me. I'll coach you. And they're like, I was like, no. I'm just going to coach you, because everyone's going through it, and everyone needs some kind of artistic, you know, something to keep them going. Just call me up. I'm available if you don't mind that my cats are running around in the back, you know. And then so to teach all these students, I've met so many new students only via Zoom. Like I have not yet met them in person, and I can't wait for that to slowly open up. And I think Paul's work is accessible to all dancers, with all, even non-dancers. There's something in his movement that is great for providing health, for just like an active activity, just for fun, because of all the character pieces that he has. You don't have to be a certain kind of dancer to do Paul's. You just have to be a human being. If you can be a human being, you can do Paul Taylor. And it's like, that's what I always kept on saying for people that are like, oh, I'm so nervous about auditioning. It's like, no, you just have to be a human in this company. We spend hours and hours of rehearsing. That's how you get to look the way we look. You know, you just have to be true to who you are and be true to the choreography. And like I said before, 100% dedicated to the character. And then there's no option to not be able to complete the goal of being an artist.
That's beautiful. And these are just like a little bit of like the amazing wisdom she passes out in class every Thursday at the Taylor School Zoom. Join us. Just briefly at the end, I wanted to hear a little bit about, we have to talk about the bread making. What are some of the amazing things that you are cooking? You're such a great cook.
Oh,
tell us a little bit.
Well, I love to cook. That's my other second passion. Before the pandemic, I was thinking about becoming a chef later on in life, and now with everything going, I was like, I don't think I should be going to do that right now. So what I ended up doing was I started trying different recipes during the pandemic, because normally I'm so tired, I just come home and I cook dinner, and if it's a mess, there's a disaster. But with that time, I was able to do some more complicated recipes. A lot of French technique takes the longest time, not my specialty. I like you know, Italian and home cut things, but I tried to learn all the fancy ways of chopping and all of that. But bread baking has been something that my new pet was my yeast, because it's sourdough bread, so you feed it every day, and then I just be baking bread. Thanks to Noah, who works in the office, he gave me a pamphlet of reading. So I was just feeding this darn thing for weeks and weeks and weeks, afraid to take the next step. And I jumped in, thanks to him. And then now I bake bread for all the dancers. And I got to most of the women. I have two more loaves in the refrigerator, because it takes about 2 days for it to fully ferment. And so I find that when there's carbs in the dance studio, everything goes very well.
Do you think of that as like a similar thing though? Like the idea of like cooking and a meal bringing people together as well as dance? Like,
Oh,
do you think that's why both things appeal to you? Is that sense of like
yeah.
social bringing people together?
Yeah, it's a way that brings people together, and also it's like when you see a dance, your soul is touched by what you see, and it makes you want to do that, or makes you, when you leave the theater, you go, wow, it carries on. Same thing with when you're sitting around the table with your family and friends, and when you go to a restaurant, when you eat something incredible, it touches you or changes you. I think of Ratatouille, where that meat critic goes back to his childhood. Yeah, I mean, that's something with dance too. You can see something and then you're like, oh my gosh, I remember this moment. So it's not surprising, but yes, a lot of correlations.
Amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much, Christina, for joining us today. It was a pleasure to get to chat with you. If anybody
Yeah.
has any questions for Christina, feel free to reach out to her on her Instagram
Yeah.
channel or to the company. We'll definitely pass it on. Yeah. She loves it when you slide into her DMs. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Christina, for chatting with us.
Thank you, Lee. And speaking of dinner, it's almost ready.
Okay.
For
I'm
dinner.
coming home. Let's eat.
Fresh order before this session. See, never a dull moment.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.